3 months into it, I'm a grown man crying in my boss's office. I'm like, Bob, I don't know if I can do it, man. Like, this is hard. This is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Picking your boss is way more important than picking a company, an industry, anything else. Like, picking your boss that's going to look out for you and develop you. If you're not adapting to some form of AI agents in your space, AI software and technology, you're going to get lapped. If you have 20 goals, you hit none of them. But if you have 2 or 3 goals, you hit all of them.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Welcome to Pass the Pitch. And today we have Chris Mader, who has 3 decades of experience in leadership, in talent development, in revenue generation, in business strategy. You basically help leaders and organizations make the adjustment. And we're going to be talking about that specifically because it's in regards to your recent book. And you help companies achieve exemplary results. So you're a former professional athlete, which we'd love to tap into that also. And not to mention, you've worn many hats, C-level executive, and you currently coach and develop leaders, all levels, from entry level all the way to C-suite. You're a published author, which is one of the great ways how we got to know each other. And on topics, you really span so many different topics, from managing across multiple generations, change management, emotional intelligence, growth strategy. You also spend a lot of time in the EOS space, which I think is so relevant and key for organizations that are in that mid-size space, and also larger companies. And I have to say, one of my top favorite books is You're Making the Adjustment. It sits on my desk, have it right here. Your mission is to empower people and teams to unleash their full potential while creating a positive workplace culture. I have to say, I'm motivated just talking about everything that you've done and you've accomplished. So welcome to the show, Chris.
And I'm so excited to talk to you. And I'm so glad we were introduced and we got to meet briefly in Florida back in November. And I'm excited to have this conversation today. Thank you for the very kind intro.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So I'm always fascinated by origin stories, backstories, right? So what makes a person, because often what will happen is when you talk to people that are, younger in their careers, they see you as what they think is the finished product, right? So they don't necessarily get, all the nicks and the crooks and crannies and things that have happened to you along the way. Yeah. So let me start with, maybe you can paint the scene of your early years and who and what shaped your direction.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so I was very fortunate that I grew up just north of Boston, had great parents. My dad's still alive. Mom passed a couple of years ago, but very good childhood. And I loved the sport of baseball. And I pursued it. And, early on, I was a very husky kid. I was overweight and I got picked on in school and stuff. And I was telling people like, I'm going to play professional baseball someday. I'll show you, and, and I started to figure it out, but I got to go to a school called Rollins College, Winter Park, Florida. And I was recruited, Anna, by Clemson, Arizona State, Dartmouth, Miami, all these big schools. Right. And my parents talked me into, they said, Chris, you probably won't start as a freshman at those schools. You might want to look at a Division II school. And I found Rollins. It was my last school to go to. And I went on this visit thinking, I'm not going to school here. Well, I show up, the campus is beautiful. I work out with the team and I meet this coach. And the coach was about 55 years old. He was in great shape. He was from Athens, Tennessee. He didn't really say a lot, but when I met with him in his office, he had this giant wooden sign over his desk. It said, son, make the adjustment. And so I'm a dismissive, cocky kid from Boston sitting in his office thinking like, I'm not going to school in this dungy Division II, whatever. And he goes, Chris, are you having any questions for me? And I kind of didn't, but I saw the sign. I go, well, what's to make the adjustment? What's that sign all about, coach? And he very calmly, Anna, he goes, you come to school here, you find out. And I was just like riveted. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? And so I start talking to the players in the team and they're like, Chris, this guy is developing us as a baseball player, as a man, as a human being, just as a good person, as an athlete. as a student. And I'm like, wow, I went from like uninterested to like totally fascinated in like 15 minutes. I went to school there. And what I found out, Anna, and is in my book, and I know you read it, I thought I was going to write a leadership book. And what happened was it became a journey of all of the setbacks in my life, especially one that happened a few years ago, I'll talk about, and how people have to adapt to change. And what Coach taught me, Anna, is this is like 1988, long before the phrase emotional intelligence existed. He would say things like, Chris, the good things that happen to you, the bad things that happen to you are because of what you do or don't do. And if things aren't going well in your life, in school, personal relationship, at work, whatever it is, he goes, you're the one who has to make the adjustment. And as soon as I was like, wow, it puts it all back on you, right? You can't make excuses. You can't blame external factors. It all comes on you. And as you know, as a coach, if you're working with a sales professional, a leader, it's all about helping them navigate change and getting them comfortable with change and getting them comfortable with, hey, look, you're the problem, but you're also the solution. You can fix this, but you have to be willing to change. Change is a choice. And so my coaching, as much as it gets tactical for leaders with how do we delegate more effectively? How do we build a business strategy, EOS framework, or if I'm coaching a salesperson, how do we build better relationships? How do we improve our closing ratios? Like, we can get into all those tactics, but the first decision is always, are you willing to change? Are you willing to make the adjustment? And so that's where all of that comes from.
And that is so impactful, because if you think about it, I mean, it really does apply to every aspect of your life, right? With whatever you encounter,
Everything.
is your mindset and how you approach it, and not, it's so easy to say, well, it wasn't me. It was, that manager. It was that, teammate. It was that whatever. You can always point the finger at someone else and
Correct.
find fault with that. But to self-reflect, it's so impactful. Maybe you can tell us a moment when you almost quit and what kept you in the game.
Oh my goodness. I mean, baseball, business, there's all kinds of stories I could tell like that. I mean, I'll start with baseball. One adjustment, I broke my wrist, and I thought there was going to be a time where I had doctors tell me I wouldn't come back. And so you talk about making the adjustment, it becomes a mindset thing, because physically I was being told that it could be unable to do it. But I just kept thinking there has to be a way. There has to be a way. I think about the workplace. Let's talk about staffing. We both worked in the staffing industry. Anybody that's been in staffing that made it, and I say made it, let's call it 10,000 a week in gross profit or spread, right? Like that's making it. That's a pretty good number in staffing. I was in the job for 3 months as a sales professional. I didn't start in recruiting. I started in sales. I wish I started in recruiting, but I didn't. And I was selling for about 3 months, and I was 26 years old, and I'm hitting my call metrics. I'm hitting my client visit metrics, and I'm getting no job orders. I'm getting nothing. And then I finally start to get a few job orders. I'm getting interviews, and nobody's closing. Like, everything's falling apart. 3 months into it, I'm a grown man crying in my boss's office. I'm like, Bob, I don't know if I can do it, man. Like, this is hard. This is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Like, you're telling me I'm doing the right things. He goes, Chris, keep doing the things you're doing. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. And honest to God, it might've been 2 more months goes by, and sure enough, I make my first deal. Next thing you know, I make 2 deals. Next thing I make 12 deals, and off you go. So I think doubt creeps into people. I don't think I know. Everybody has experiences doubt. And it really becomes the few variables that come around you is, what are your foundational, what's your character? What's your foundational principles? What's your circle like? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Who's your boss? I mean, this is like probably the most important thing people can learn. Picking your boss is way more important than picking a company, an industry, anything else. Like, picking your boss, it's going to look out for you and develop you, because you are going to have that moment where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right seat? And if they're being honest with you, I've had these conversations as a leader where, I'll tell you anecdotally, most of the time, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I believe in that person. It's just they're going through a hard time. And sometimes, though, they're in the wrong seat, or it is the wrong business. And I can have that conversation. Hey, Annie, you know what? Like, you're amazing at these things. This job might not be right for you. How do we find something else for you? Right. So I still believe in you, but maybe this isn't the right job. But we all come to these doubts, and I've had them happen in the past, but usually it becomes my mindset. Like, I am going to outwork this, and I'm not going to quit, because I do believe Dan Foley, maybe somebody you know in staffing, ran Sapphire, Ronset Technologies, now Curate Partners. When I was in a dark hole years ago, like 25 years ago in staffing, I said, Dan, do you think I can do this? He goes, Chris, I'm going to tell you the number one attribute of people in staffing. The people that make it are the ones that don't quit. It's literally that easy. Just do not quit. If you're a good person, You're well-intentioned, you have good work ethic, you're a good teammate. You literally just don't quit. It's going to work out. And thankfully it did.
Isn't that amazing? And it's so true. You talk about doubt. That really plagues everyone in every shape. And it's a matter of having that, my father used to call it intestinal fortitude, right? That you
Yeah.
have the guts and the gumption and you stick at
Perfect.
it. And that is so key. So let's talk a little bit about why this industry matters to you. Um,
I love it.
what kind of, yeah, what kind of keeps you up at night in regards to, how this industry acts?
That's such a great question. I love staffing. I fell like most people fall into it. I think 30 years ago we fell into it, and about 5 or 10 years ago it became a career path that people started to know more about. Got more comfortable. What is a staffing company like? And when I started selling, we had to explain what we did. Right now, I think people get what staffing does, and that's all great. But it's funny. You talk about making the adjustment, and I'm going to be really candid. It's funny that like MSPs and VMSs came out say 1999, right? And we resisted that for a while, and then we kind of said, okay, we have to make the adjustment. This isn't going anywhere. It is what it is. And I know that selling, people in staff will understand mid-market versus enterprise account or MSP VMS. Most staffing firms love the mid-market stuff. It's good margin. And then we've shifted to this SOW, project-based staffing work stuff that we can sell, which is great. Get to sticky with the clients. It's funny because I heard one of your recent podcasts where you talked about this, but a lot of companies still haven't truly made the adjustment with VMS MSP, or they haven't made the adjustment training their staff on how to have a more substantive conversation around SOW, project-based work, why it's good for the client, right? Not just why it's good for you. Why is it good for the client? Why is it good for the candidates? And so these are adjustments. It's funny that, we've been doing this now 20, 30 years. And I go into companies, I'm like, guys, it's 2026. Like, you have to make the adjustment here. Like, and now you're talking about AI. If you're not adapting to some form of AI agents in your space, AI software and technology, you're going to get lapped. So I get to work in some industries outside of staffing. And what's funny is that they're light years ahead, sometimes in marketing and sales and the way they measure KPIs and metrics and what's their ICP. And it's just fascinating to me. So I try to bring these ideas between my 27 years of staffing experience and then 3 years of consulting outside of staffing to my staffing customers and be like, guys, like this is where it's going. And if you don't start jumping on board pretty quick, you're going to get lapped.
And that is so true. I do think there's something about the staffing industry where it gets a little myopic in their, thought process. There's a few clients that I work with, and the CEO and the founder feel that we just need to keep doing more of the same. Right? We're just not working hard enough. But guess what? Cold calling doesn't work like it did 20 years
Right.
ago.
Correct.
And are you looking at the right metrics? Right? Because if you think about it, are you just focused on, I've had plenty of salespeople tell me I had 100 touch points today. I've been consistent for the last 3 months and nothing is happening. Okay. So we're measuring the fact that you're doing a great job as far as touch points, but what about outcomes? What's happening? And that's what you need to look at, because you got to communicate to the audience differently. So if you could change one rule or norm in the industry, what would it be?
Awesome question. I'm gonna back up on what you just said. The vast majority of customers I work with are still dying on the sort of phone calls. Like, they're dying on that sort is like the number one metric. The number one metric is how many people did you get in front of this week and speak with? So let's call it, you can call the metric conversations, or you can call it client visits or candidate interviews, but like an actual, like we're talking on camera. How many scheduled events did you have where you talked to somebody, and measure that? And, there's a funny riddle, I guess I'll call it, Anna, where there's like two sales leaders on a bar stool having a conversation. And, manager number one has, his sales team's producing 100 widgets a week, and everybody's in their seat and they're making the phone calls and they're doing the work and they're grinding 100 widgets a week. And the other leader, that's a remote workforce, they don't know where the people are, and they're generating 120 widgets a week. And the riddle is, well, which team do you want to have? And most of the leaders I work with are all in this first bucket of 100 widgets a week. I want to see them in their seat. I want to see them grinding. And I'm like, but guys, if they're doing 120 a week, why do you care? Like, why do you really care? And by the way, I'm all for culture. I'm all for seeing the work. But like, there's a book written by Thomas Friedman called The World is Flat. Work can be done from anywhere. So, I think I think the leaders that do it wrong just micro too much and don't, quote unquote, make the adjustment. They don't take a step back and say, okay, well, like you just said, hey, a rep's been making the activities for 3 months and nothing's happening. okay, well, is that their fault or is that your structure? And I think leaders have a really hard time with that question. They don't want to answer the question. They have an ego, and what got them here won't get them there. And like, well, this used to work. And I'm like, guys, I get it. But again, I hate to overuse it, but they have to make the adjustment.
Exactly. And it's so interesting that you say that. I thought COVID did, the one good thing that came out of COVID was that it taught us that we can work remote and be okay. Yes, it definitely changed 180 degrees how you sell, because you're trying to establish a relationship through a video screen as opposed to being in person. But when you look at what happened in 2024 and 2023, 24, 25, where the demand to get back into the office. And I have my youngest, stepson, where he's an attorney. He services a completely the West Coast, and we're on the East Coast, and yet he has to go into the office, right? Which makes no sense because he could easily do it, from home. But I have so many examples like that. And that's the shame. It's like people just don't know how to make the adjustment and stick to it, and really listen to your people, right? Listen to your people, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, which I find fascinating. So this used to not be my favorite question, but now I enjoy asking this question and responding to this question about advice to your younger self. So, what decision would you make, faster next time, and why? Is there a skill set that you wish you would have picked up sooner? Maybe you can kind of share a little bit about what you would tell your younger self.
Yeah, it actually is a great question. I would say the adjustments I wasn't making early in my career, and again, I grew up in the Boston area, and I think there's something to be said for baseball players, Boston, only child. There's probably, if I have a psychiatrist, maybe give me my psychiatrist for a while. I was too cocky when I was younger. I wasn't a good teammate to my staffing partners. Like as a salesperson, I wasn't always like, I didn't listen to the recruiters. I'm like, yeah, just do this. Here's the rack, figure it out. Like I wasn't a good listener, which as a result wasn't really a good teammate. I didn't figure that out until I was probably 29, 30 years old. So there's like 4 years of my life in staffing where I could go back like Chris. That's why I actually opened. I didn't even realize I'd come back to this. I wish I started as a recruiter. I believe in staffing. Everybody should see both sides of the desk. I'm not saying work a 360 desk, but like recruit for 3 months, sell for 3 months, and then go do whatever. There's one healthcare staffing company called Comp Health. Anna, I don't know if you ever know them, but their onboarding program, every new employee, doesn't matter what role you're in. You could be a CEO, vice president, accountant, doesn't matter. The first 3-week orientation, you do half day of every job in the company. So you recruit for 4 hours, you sell for 4 hours, you're an accountant for 4 hours, you're an IT, you literally shadow every job, because I believe that just gives you better perspective and respect for, people in the organization. So that would be the first thing. The second thing was listening. I've been, assessed 9 ways to Sunday between Wonderlic, DISC assessment, Strengths Finder, predictive index, all the things. And as I got more emotionally intelligent, I learned that as a high I on the DISC, I'm extroverted, very people-centric, very talkative, enthusiastic. And I needed to become a better listener. And so that was something that I wish I was told at age 26, not probably 36 or 46. And it would have made me a better salesperson. And as a result, I mean, I was pretty good back in the day. I carried a 28K spread in 1999 as individual contributor, like basically before computers came out. I can't even imagine what I would have done if I had some of these skills that I've now learned to try to improve upon.
It isn't that amazing. I think we probably rank the same way. High I, extrovert. Listening, definitely not my strength. So I developed that after many, many years. And I often think about, deals or opportunities that you lose or you lost. And you say, gee, if I would have, you know, I could have
Right.
closed that deal, right? If I
Yes.
was just listening a little bit better,
Yeah.
because the route they went was clearly something that we could have done for them. So I think that's
Yeah.
great, great advice.
Yeah.
Um, what do you wish someone had told you about failure or feedback early on?
I'd rather talk about feedback, because for
Yeah.
me, failure is temporary. I've had this mantra my whole life: you either lose or you learn. So failure doesn't bother me. I'll just keep moving forward. I was way too sensitive with feedback. Like I took every piece of feedback way too personally. way too emotional, wore my heart on my sleeve, reacted in the moment, didn't digest the feedback. Like I was terrible in my 20s and probably even part of my 30s of accepting feedback. And I think it was the year 2013. I was probably about 43 years old, and I was working at Ronstadt Technologies at the time. And they believed in me so much, they invested in me, and they sent me to a development program in Amsterdam. And I got really smart on emotional intelligence. And it just started to open my eyes to things like observation or mindfulness and just other aspects, social perception. And I just started to immerse myself in this EQ journey of becoming a better version of myself. And I think as a result, I've done that. And obviously it's still something I work on, but that's, I think the feedback piece is I learned a phrase, attack the problem, not the person. Like as a coach, and if I was working with you, like I say, hey, we're attacking business issues. We're not attacking people. We're just attacking the problem, not the person, right? Okay, well, if I'm
Right.
saying that and I believe that, I need to take feedback as, hey, Chris, you're not being attacked, right? We're just attacking this problem, whatever the problem is. And so I think I've done a better job in the last maybe 10, 12 years to accept feedback and get, less emotional or, I've seen people get the hives, when you give somebody feedback, you can
So-
see their heart rate's going up. You almost feel bad, but you're like, hey, I got to give this feedback to you. And I'm trying to help you. And I'm not doing it to hurt you. But yeah, I definitely took feedback way too emotionally.
No, and you bring up a great point because I think that's the biggest challenge that, sales leaders or just leaders in general have is being able to share that hard feedback and being concerned how the person's going to take it versus putting the right frame around it, saying, this is the challenge, this is the problem, this is how we need to address it. And it has nothing to do with you, Chris, personally, or Anna, or whoever.
Right.
So great point. Let's talk a little bit about impact for this lifetime, right? If your career
Mhm.
were a sentence,
Yeah.
how would you want it to read?
It's literally as simple as an ode to my coach that I talked about in my book. He impacted us in such a way that he had 300 people that played for him in college, and all 300 of them are some of the hardest working, successful, kind people that I've ever
Mm.
known. And I think it's because of the way coach treated us, what he taught us. And literally the one sentence is I literally just want to try to leave a fraction of the legacy and the impact on people that my coach left on me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Um, so do you feel that you have any practices that you use on a daily basis, or hopefully not daily, but if you're having a hard day, that you can kind of rely on? Some people like to meditate, some people like to do yoga. Like just recently, I had a guest say that yoga is their go-to. From your perspective, what
Yeah.
are you doing yoga, Chris? What's going
Listen,
on?
I actually, I'm all for yoga. I do it occasionally. I do stretch every day, but
Okay.
no, I'll tell you. So I went through a tough time, it's in my book 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I did talk to a mental health therapist, counselor. And the first thing they said, which is I've kept with me the last 6 years, they talked about you have to focus on your sleep. So I wear a Whoop band. I track my sleep to make sure I'm sleeping well. Talked about obviously water, talked about exercise. I lost my exercise routine and I was a former professional athlete and I got overweight. I wasn't working out. So I now do 4 kettlebell workouts a week, like hard kettlebell workouts a week and 2 bikes a week is minimum for me, plus 10,000 steps a day. I also had to get off the vices. I think in staffing, if you work enough staffing companies, we can joke about we're going out, we're having cocktails, this and that. I was probably drinking too much back in the day. I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic, but I was drinking too much. I had to curtail the drinking. So the 4 pillars for me were sleep, exercise, eating healthy, and getting away from the vices quite a bit. And I've been consistent with that now for 6 years. And I obviously feel better, better relationships, just all the things that come along with that. But I've been very consistent with that. And I'm very proud of the level of strength I've regained. Like it's funny, my stepson does powerlifting and he goes, "Hey Chris, what can you bench?" And I go, "Well, Braden, I do, I do kettlebells. I don't bench." He goes, "Well, when was the last time you tried to bench?" I go, "I don't know, Braden. I haven't benched in 20 years. I have no idea." And I put up 225, which is my weight. I weigh 225 pounds, like easy. No, I haven't done that since I was like 25 years old.
Oh my
So I
God.
got my strength back through this kettlebell routine, which I'm very proud of. And I'm just convinced it doesn't beat up my body. I don't get sore after a workout and I just feel better.
I know, and that's so important, and especially with the focus. I mean, you did talk about it in the book, as far as impact 6 years ago versus where you are today. But I would
Yeah.
have to say, for probably the last, 5 years, mental health has really been top of mind for many organizations, and how to better, have a culture that creates a safe workplace for
Yes.
individuals. But listening to your body, right? Listening to because I know that feeling. I've been in the staffing industry just as long, and it's a very social type of industry, and
Right.
you go out for drinks, and if you say that you're not going to drink, they think something's wrong with you, right?
Right.
Like, oh
Right.
my God, are you okay? Like, no, I'm
Right.
not going to die. I just don't
Exactly.
want to drink tonight, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But
Right.
you learn those habits, and then you have to hit. I always say, hit the pause button, hit the pause, reset, focus on your body first. Well,
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Chris, I could talk to you, I think, forever. One last question I wanted to ask you is, one tool or ritual you cannot live without, besides the exercise and the routines that you mentioned. Is there anything else that you do that you feel?
Yeah, there is. It's funny. So I hired a coach. So you're a coach, I'm a coach, and I sell, the fact that everybody should have a coach. You're a CEO, you're a salesperson, like everybody should have a coach. It's great to have that outlet, a safe place to talk and learn and all those things. So I hired a coach named Dan Martell 6 months ago. It's been awesome for me. He has something called the 5 daily non-negotiables, but one of the non-negotiables I have that's really helped me in my business, especially, is I have very defined goals. I review them 3 times a day.
Oh,
So I review them in the morning, at lunchtime, and at night, and I have them on my phone as a screensaver. And the reason that's important is I got to work with a PhD in organizational behavior years ago named Dr. Rick Mayberry. And he once said a very simple phrase. He goes, Chris, the body goes where the mind goes first. And so my mind in the morning goes to, what are my goals? Noontime, what are my goals? What are my goals? And as somebody with diagnosed ADHD that's gotten under control, reviewing my goals 3 times a day keeps me focused on the most important things. Because again, great advice for anybody listening. We can be busy doing all kinds of things, but you want to focus on the right things. And so there was a book I read years ago called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, where they articulated if you have 20 goals, you hit none of them. But if you have 2 or 3 goals, you hit all of them. So I have 3 goals a quarter. So I have 3 specific business goals every quarter, part of the EOS framework. And then, I evaluate, did I hit those goals for the quarter, yes or no? Then I reset 3 goals, but I look at them every single day. In the last 6 months, I hit my 3 goals in Q4. I hit my 3 goals in Q1. And previously I'd been missing my goals, to be candid. I had the goals, but by looking at them every day, it just focuses you. Okay, look at my calendar. Is that the right thing to be doing? Nope. Delete that, move that to next week. Like, stay focused on the right things.
and I love that, Chris, for so many reasons. I spend a lot of time talking to company leaders, where I talk about, maintaining focus. And a lot of times during difficult economic times, you lose focus, because now you're going to try to go after, the next big thing. And maybe
Yeah.
we need to invest here, and you lose focus. And
Right.
it's managing to your goals. What's the original intent? Where is this company going? So I think that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've kind of run out of time for the questions, but I am going to surprise you. I have
Okay.
some lightning round questions I'd love to
Okay.
ask you, and just
Can't
say
wait.
the first thing that comes to mind. So,
Can't
the
wait.
first question is,
Mhm.
first job on your resume.
On my resume, I would say on my resume, professional baseball player, but in my first job, I was working in a car lot, washing cars and pulling weeds.
I
And
love it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
What's the most overrated buzzword in our industry?
Synergies,
Oh, I know.
synergies.
Hate that word.
They're everywhere.
I know everybody's got a
Synergies.
synergy of some kind. That's a great word.
Yeah. Thank
Subject
you.
line you open at 2 a.m.
Invoice paid.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
which one was it and how much was it?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Favorite meeting snack?
So meeting snack is funny. I'm gonna say a Snickers bar. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but like if I'm on the go and like and I have no time, I literally Snickers will like do it for me every single time. Just a Snickers bar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, fan favorite. So I'm good with that. And
Yeah.
last but not least, what is your walk on song?
Oh my God.
Mhm.
So this is gonna come off weird as a guy wearing a collared shirt as an executive coach, but this is funny. I actually had one because I played minor league baseball. and it was Enter Sandman by Metallica, if you can believe that. So
I love it. I love it.
yeah,
That's absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
listen, Chris, I just want to say thank you. This was absolutely wonderful. The time literally flew by, and
yeah.
really appreciate your insights, and look forward to many people buying your book, Make the Adjustment.
And I want to say too, I read your book, Anna, and like honestly, I have it on my desk, not just because we're talking. I too sell, and I'm still, I drive sales in my own company. I read it before every sales call, and I always get one or two things. I'm like, I want to make sure I do these two things, and it's awesome. So I just want to say thank you for writing that book, because it's extremely helpful.
Oh, terrific. Thank you so much, Chris, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Tune in for Season 5, coming soon. New interviews with industry leaders, unexpected perspectives, and conversations that go beyond the obvious. See you then.